Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So now we would like to discuss a little bit more about the meanings of these divine names, and this will involve delving a little bit into the Arabic and into the Arabic construction of the names, and we'll try to do it in such a way that whether or not Arabic is your primary language or secondary language, or you know it or don't know it at all, hopefully inshallah we'll still be able to bring across these concepts. So we'll start with just a note on Arabic derivations. A lot of Arabic philologists and linguists feel that all words are derived from a base verb. And if we look at a verb, that denotes an action. And then we derive from that verb directly the person taking the action to describe that they're the one doing this. If we look at English and we look, for example, at the verb eat, then the person doing this is the eater. But in Arabic, the derivations are much more rich. In particular, I want to focus on two forms. One which is going to be similar to English. So if I have eat, then the person doing this is the eater. And that is known as ism al-fa'il, the name of the actor or the name of the subject who is taking that action. But I can also, from that same verb in Arabic, have Arabic forms that denote that the person is not just an eater, but is a super eater. And that in Arabic is known as SWT al-mubalagha, which is the construction of excess or exaggeration. The person doesn't just take that action, but they take it in an exaggerated way. They do it in a major exaggerated way. And by excess and exaggeration here, we're not trying to imply anything negative or pejorative. They just do it a great deal more than just the ordinary eater would do it. So now let us look at this concept vis-a-vis some of the divine names. And we notice that many of them are in the form of what we just talked about, as-sighat al-mubalagha, the construction of exaggeration, again without negative connotation here. So let's take the Arabic verb sami'a, he heard. If I just want to talk about somebody who takes that action, the ordinary hearer, I would then term that person a sami'a, from sami'a. But if I want to talk about a super hearer, someone who hears everything, the sighat al-mubalagha, the construction of exaggeration in Arabic, would be as-sami'. Sami' means super hearer, the one who hears but to a tremendous degree, hears everything. And so you notice that the divine name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not as-sami', not just the hearer, but as-sami', the super hearer, the all-hearing. Now let's look at the Arabic verb ghafara, he forgave. So in this instance, the person who does this in an ordinary fashion would be a ghafir, a forgiver. He is the person who takes the action of ghafara, of forgiving. But if I look at the divine name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't see it as being ghafir, I see it as being al-ghafur, the super forgiver. And so we see that the translation here is the forgiving, the exceedingly forgiving, and I would say that the exceedingly forgiving is much more in tune with this sighat al-mubalagha. And so right off the bat, we see that these divine names, the way that they are spelled out in the Quran, following the rules of Arabic are meant to imply that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does these things in a superlative degree, in an unmatched degree, in an unparalleled degree, in an amazing degree. Whether it is As-Sami' or Al-Ghafur or Al-Basir, etc. Now, let's return to that situation of the ordinary actor. That in Arabic, once again to remind you, is known as Ism al-Fa'il, which is like in English when we said eat, eater. I'm not trying to say a super eater, just an eater. The person who does that action. Some of the names are also in that Arabic construction, without the construction of excess or exaggeration. We will call this characterization a first brush. The last lecture of this series, inshallah, will be delving a little bit more in depth into the Arabic constructions for those who have a particular knowledge or interest in Arabic, and we will refine the ideas being presented here. But as a first brush, let us say that some of the names seem to fall into this category of Ism al-Fa'il, the name of the actor, without the construction of exaggeration. And let me propose a theory, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. When I look at some of those names, such as for example, khalaqa, he created, then the divine name associated with that is al-Khaliq, the one who creates, without a construction of exaggeration. The same goes for al-Bari', the originator. The same goes for al-Baqi, the ever-surviving, the everlasting. The same goes for al-Warith, the inheritor or the heir. All of these are Ism al-Fa'il, just the name of the actor without a construction of exaggeration. Why is that? Well, the theory I would like to propose, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, is that in the qualities where God's creatures can also partake, like for example, hearing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with the capacity to hear or to see. So I can hear things, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-hearing. So in those situations, His divine name goes to the construction of excess or exaggeration, صيغة المبالغة, because His hearing is entirely different from my hearing. Like we talked about the finite and the infinite, right? Maybe I can forgive someone if they hurt me. So I could be a ghafir. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-forgiving. He is al-Ghafur. He is the all-seeing. So He is al-Basir, and so forth. But I see a little bit. Remember we talked about finite area. Maybe I can understand what a square mile is. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's infinite area. So my hearing is the finite, His is the infinite. My seeing is the finite, His is the infinite. My forgiveness is the finite, His is the infinite. Those are the names that have صيغة المبالغة. But the names that have Ism al-Fa'il, just the name of the actor without the construction of exaggeration, perhaps, and once again Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best, this is just my thinking, that perhaps these are the areas where, to put it in a way that I really don't think is perhaps the best way to put it, but it will bring the meaning across. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has no competition. He is alone. I don't create. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not need to be the super creator. He is the only creator. I don't originate. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone is the Bari'. I am not the ever-surviving or everlasting. All of us will die. Not just all of us, everything ends, except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who remains al-Baqi, literally means the one who remains always. So there does not need to be a construction of exaggeration here, because I have no capacity to even touch upon this quality. And after everything is gone, everything is finished, who inherits? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is the sole heir, the sole inheritor, when all is said and done in this universe. So, again, there does not need to be a construction of exaggeration, because He subhanahu wa ta'ala is alone in that quality. So as we think upon these names, and we think, how are they being spelled out in Arabic? What construction is being used? Hopefully that again will enhance our spirituality and our sense of awe before the grandeur of the Creator. So let me end this short lecture here, because I just wanted to preface the upcoming lectures with this introduction to the Arabic constructions as we delve a little bit more into some of the meanings. Once again, I hope that you are finding this useful and helpful, and I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me my mistakes, and I hope you will join us for the next installment. And once again, Salamu alaikum and God bless.